This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, an online therapy platform. May marks Mental Health Awareness Month, generating recognition around the importance and the stigmas that surround mental health. But it also serves as a good reminder that getting support for your mental health, or your spouse, family member, or even just a friend in need, isn't simply a month-long thing. It is something that everyone faces in one way or another, and we should all be actively aware of. That's why we're happy to work with BetterHelp, the experts in providing therapy solutions to fit your individual needs, timing, and schedule. BetterHelp hosts therapy sessions via phone calls, video chats, and even messaging for those on the go. BetterHelp is making therapy more accessible, not just during Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month, but all year round, simplifying access to professional therapists who are trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice catered to your needs. If you've thought about therapy, then consider joining the 4 million plus people who already use BetterHelp to live a healthier, happier life. Visit betterhelp.com/CinemaSins or choose CinemaSins at sign up to get a special discount off your first month of therapy.
It's an important and popular fact that things are not always what they seem.
That's more of an adage than a fact. So welcome to the important and popular nitpicking that is CinemaSins. I hope you enjoy the ride. Also, why is this movie a box right now? I came here to see a movie, not my granny's Trinitron.
The second most intelligent creatures were, of course, dolphins, who, curiously enough, had long known of the impending destruction of the planet Earth.
We will soon find out that the plans for the impending destruction of the planet Earth could be located in Alpha Centauri, which the incredulous aliens can't believe that no one from Earth had ever visited. How the f*** did the dolphins figure it out? Telepathy?
Most of their communications were misinterpreted as amusing attempts to punch footballs or whistle for tidbits.
Dolphins are so smart, why didn't they shout the message to us in their own dolphin language, but really slowly and loudly? That always worked for me when I, an intellectual, face a language barrier with someone unwilling to speak American.
So they eventually decided they would leave Earth by their own means.
Jesus, Bruce and Christ. I can only assume that the dolphins used their supreme intelligence to engineer a lasso and brought the moon 1 billion times closer to Earth and used the subsequent shift in gravity to tidally slingshot themselves out of the ocean. Or maybe they built rockets and launch pads in the water. Telepathy?
But in fact, the message was this: so long, and thanks for all the fish.
You know, I think the dolphins of 2005 would be more likely to say, thanks for all 3 of the salmon you so graciously decided not to overfish into extinction. Oh, and thanks for all the fucking microplastics too, dickweeds. Most of us have colon cancer, and poor Steve still has her head stuck in that fucking 8-hole plastic death trap. What do you even use that for? Handcuffing octopuses, you sick bastards? Here's a song called So Long and Thanks for All the Fish plays. A simple and hilarious punchline has now become a bloated opening credits song. Probably because some producer wants to win an Oscar or some shit.
The extraordinary story of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Roll credits.
He is a 5'8" tall ape descendant.
Oh, really? Are you sure that he was descended from an ape? Or was he descended from a common ancestor in the Champagne region of France? Otherwise, he's just a sparkling white whiner.
And someone is trying to drive a bypass through his house.
Jesus, are they using an 8.5 earthquake to do it? How are a bunch of vehicles vibrating his tea off the table? Holy shit, that is a lot of equipment to demolish one house. Especially since England only has access to 2 working bulldozers, and both are currently committed to deterring an obese yet rather determined pigeon outside of Greg's Bakery in Pontefract.
You can't lie in front of the bulldozers forever.
Oh, well, I'm game. We'll see you rust first.
Arthur appears to be under the illusion that the bulldozer will succumb to rust before he succumbs to exposure, starvation, or being crushed by an unrusted bulldozer.
These plans have been on display at the planning office now for a year.
On display, I had to go down to a cellar.
Okay, that certainly disproves that the plans were readily available to view, but it sounds like you still saw the plans anyway, even though you went down into the cellar to see them?
6 pints of bitter and quickly, the world's about to end.
That is not a pint of bitter. That is a lager. Damn it, where is all this British knowledge coming from? Oh no. Our infinite probability drive must be malfunctioning and randomly shoving useless UK trivia into my head. I don't want it. Get out of my brain. USA! USA! USA!
3 pints each. At lunchtime.
Sorry. Time. It's an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so.
We cut down the amount of time it takes Ford to down this beer, but this is one of many examples of the movie inserting its own humor smack dab in the middle of the Douglas Adams humor. And I don't think it works. I feel like the movie is playing the hits of the book, but like a band playing a 30-year-old song that they don't want to play anymore. They change the pace from normal to fast, they insert an overlong drum solo, and lapse into a cover of the Spice Girls' Wannabe before finishing the original song. And I wanted to hear Bob O'Reilly, damn it, not Baby O'Spicy.
What if I told you I really wasn't from Guildford?
I now know that the most obvious tell is that he just pronounced the D in Guildford. The actual denizens of Guildford and most of England, in fact, don't even recognize the letter D as part of the English alphabet.
I assumed you were drunk.
I thought cars were the dominant life form.
How did Ford think that cars were the dominant life form? We assume he's been to a lot of planets, all of which we will soon see are populated by living things that are close to human. This lady is distracting as all hell. She stares at Ford and Arthur throughout this entire pub scene. I assumed she was going to deliver some kind of zinger or end up being an alien, but instead she just sits there the whole time staring as if she's actually watching Mos Def and Martin Freeman enjoy a beer.
It's not as clever as Darwin, I know.
How the f did he guess Darwin from this costume? I would have gone with unassassinated Abraham Lincoln before Darwin.
Everyone keeps calling me Santa.
Furthermore, how did the other partygoers guess Santa from this costume? Does Santa wear a fucking tuxedo? Dumb. People are dumb.
And I thought the Beagle made it a dead giveaway.
Yes.
Sure, if people recognize it as first a beagle and then remember that that's the name of the ship Darwin took to destroy religion.
Where do you have in mind?
Madagascar.
Is that new club on Dean Street?
Since this movie came out in 2005, this will mark one of the last times a joke about Madagascar ignorance or its associated penguins would work. And I, for one, missed that time.
Hey, excuse me. Does this guy boring you?
Wait, we've been subjected to flashbacks of some woman Arthur really loved, and we find out it's just someone he met at a party one night and never saw again?
What the hell are those things?
What do you mean those things, plural? Yes, there was a fleet of Vogon ships around the Earth, but Arthur doesn't know that. From his perspective, it's pretty clear that Arthur should only be able to see the business end of one massive thing.
Plans for the development of the outlying regions of the galaxy involve the building of a hyperspace express route through your star system.
As this movie will later remind us, space is big. Really big. Why the f would you need to destroy planets, which occupy so little space, for any kind of route, much less an express route when you've conquered the problem of hyperspace? This jump zoom cuts for 30 goddamn seconds. The movie forgets that it already told us what it was 14 minutes ago. Also, the score here is a new version of the music that played on the old BBC radio show, which, yes, I listened to as well. I listened to that audio so much and am so familiar with the rhythms of it, the music, the narration, the acting, that everything they do that harkens back to it is f***ing wrong and unnatural.
And more controversial than Ulon Kalufid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters, Where God Went Wrong, some more of God's greatest mistakes, and Who Is This God Person Anyway?
Controversial indeed. I mean, it's utterly outrageous and honestly quite offensive that this trilogy only contains 3 books instead of the required 5. Also, are the first 2 books entirely about God creating women and men? This graph tracking profits suggests that the Hitchhiker's Guide traveled back in time to boost its own sales, but then f***ed it up somewhere along the line. Ended up tanking its sales and would have to wait until this point in the graph to regain its momentum, and that just seems like a poor marketing strategy.
Vogons are one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy. Not evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous.
Dad?
They can't think, they can't imagine. Most of them can't even spell, they just run things.
If they can't think or imagine, then why do we even need to worry about the poetry that you warned us about?
The Babelfish is small, yellow.
Why would this fish that translates things for you take its name from the Tower of Babel, a distinctly Earth thing?
If you stick one in your ear, you instantly understand anything said to you in any language.
What a very plot-venient adaptation for this creature to plot-dependently plot-volve.
Resistance is useless.
Ripping off the Borg. You know, if they cut you, they'll make it so you regret it.
Vogon poetry is widely accepted as the 3rd worst in the universe.
Oh, I will rend thee in the double war.
Some things are just best left to the imagination. This Vogon poetry isn't bad, painful, or inspiring me to rearrange any internal organs in a bid to survive. It's just gibberish. I'm not saying I want the movie to hurt me, but I would respect it more if it did. The configuration of the large screens for this crowd makes absolutely no sense to me. Why are they positioned that way? Why aren't there more, especially for the people behind the ship? Why is there a huge empty space of land over here on the left side separating the crowd? And why is there a f***ing tent blocking the screen for anybody from here backward? When Trillian turns off the TV, why is a blinding light coming out of the space where the image was? Does the TV's light source stay on after you turn it off? This shit is blinding!
I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed.
Alan Rickman was, frankly, a genius bit of casting and is, ironically, an absolute joy as Marvin. They are only going after one ship, right? Why did he need a whole fleet?
I think that door just sighed.
Arthur, Stephen Fry is already doing the narration duties. We don't need you to point out every little thing that happens so that we'll know when to laugh.
All the doors in this spaceship have been programmed to have a cheerful and sunny disposition.
And so sighing is the result of that programming?
Ford! Break the Beetlejuice!
But I thought Ford was just his Earth name that he took while he was stranded on Earth. Why would Zaphod know it?
I think I heard him call you Trillian. Which one of us got the right one?
Oh, I shortened it. Something a little more spacey.
I am having tremendous trouble figuring out when Arthur and Trillian first met. Was it a long time ago? Was it yesterday? Since Zaphod stole the ship yesterday and used the pickup line, "Do you want to see my spaceship?" I'm assuming it was last night. But the way they talk about it, sounds like it's been a decently long time. And yes, I know, by going up into space, that time can be super wonky, but I do not believe this movie is following those rules, so there.
You blew it with her, Earthman, so shut your face. I kick in his ass.
Is Zaphod's second head a ventriloquist?
Bring me the request to pursue fugitive form.
I know that the Vogons have been portrayed as a bureaucratic nightmare, but isn't that exactly what they were doing? Why would they have to fill out forms to do something they're already in the middle of? There are so many red flags here that I struggle to believe a real Englishman would even go near this absolute tea-bomination. Firstly, it comes out pre-milked, so there's no reliable way of knowing how long the tea bag has been steeped before the milking occurred. Secondly, it's being served in a heinous cocktail glass, which certainly wouldn't pass muster. And finally, will someone please turn off the sin probability drive before I start singing the third verse to God Save the King and adding unnecessary U's everywhere?
So, 2 heads is what does it for a girl? Yeah, I mean, if I'd had 2 heads, or, I don't know, 3.
In this scene, Arthur will get awkwardly possessive of a woman he's just met and shame her for not committing to him after a few drinks. I'm not saying this is an inaccurate representation of male behavior, but since these two end up in a relationship, I feel like this is tacit approval of the being a possessive asshat opening gambit.
This toasts bread while you're slicing it.
But why would you want to toast a part of the bread you're not even going to eat until later? That means when you go back to the loaf and cut a new slice, one side will be hot while the other side is cold. Why not just already have sliced bread and have an invention, I don't know, like a toaster that does the same thing so both sides of the bread are hot when you eat it?
To Madagascar, that was some sort of test. I failed.
How badly does it hurt?
It doesn't feel great.
No, I mean your chin.
Yes, of course. That makes total sense. When someone is talking about getting rejected, you just out of the blue ask about physical pain, complete with the pronoun game and everything.
Deep thought. We want you to tell us the answer.
Asking a computer for an answer without asking a fucking question.
The answer to life, the universe, everything.
You'd think an extremely intelligent race of people who built a supercomputer like this would realize that their question needs way more data than this simplified question to a complex problem.
I have to think about that. Return to this place in exactly 7.5 million years.
Deep thought is a Commodore 64.
42.
Okay, fine. I'm giving this a sin off. This will never not be funny. And removing some bonus sins for coming to this answer exactly at the 42-minute mark.
It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
Deep thought is both correct and a dick. You could have told someone that the question wasn't clear 7.5 million years ago. Also, it kills me that no one is curious how the computer took the data it was given and somehow came up with the answer of 42. I just get disappointed. Also, if the question wasn't clear, how did the computer come up with any answer? Like, at this point, we're supposed to just be satisfied with the fact that the computer didn't even know what question it was trying to answer, yet it still came up with an answer.
And go down into the computer to navigate its 10 million year program.
Deep thought apparently never actually thought deep about technology progressing in such a way that computing speed would be exponentially better as time progresses. Creating a 10 million year program suggests that you can't simply wait like 20 years to drastically increase the computing speed and reduce the wait time dramatically.
You're president of the galaxy, aren't you?
That's right, Armin.
Arthur?
Whatever.
Ah, yes. The eccentric character is too eccentric to remember even the most simple names cliche. You know, it gets funnier the less I hear it.
As the improbability drive reaches infinite improbability, it passes through every conceivable point in every conceivable universe almost simultaneously.
I challenge you to come up with a better explanation for why the MCU is such a garbage fire post-Endgame.
In other words, you're never sure where you'll end up or even what species you'll be when you get there.
Sounds like something that needs more testing before it goes to market. Who would buy this?
Wow. Is this gonna happen every time we hit that button?
Sadly, it won't. And the crazy thing is that this movie had the potential to be Everything Everywhere All at Once 17 years before Everything Everywhere All at Once, if only it had the yarn balls to carry on doing awesome bits like this.
Come on.
Trisha!
I need some character development that the movie refuses to give me.
We lift our noses, clogged and unblown.
Jesus, Gesundheit. This satire is way too on the nose. Now, I understand that one of the old factors of humor is that it's subjective. But if this even had a whiff of subtlety, I might be able to enjoy this several odors higher than normal.
Send the handkerchief, O blessed ones, so that it may wipe us clean.
The other thing about this religion is that it's way too simple. There's no other aspects to this other than God created the universe with a sneeze. Now here's a bunch of references to handkerchiefs. This religion would fail in a month or less with this kind of storytelling. We think the religions on Earth are boring, and there's all sorts of rad shit in the Bible, so what chance does this bullshit have? Super spreader events. Choosing 100 tiny robotic legs as your means of locomotion instead of, well, a wheel, fewer legs but with bigger feet, or a hoverboard. Yes, this is the weirdest part of this image.
If memory serves, you won, proving that good looks and charm win over brilliance and the ability to govern.
Being surprised by something that lowly humans discovered in 1981.
You didn't come halfway across the galaxy to settle a campaign grudge, Zaphod.
That's true, he didn't. The Heart of Gold took them here improbably. But why has Zaphod been acting like that's the reason they decided to come down to the planet? He doesn't know that Humma has the coordinates to Magrathea, so all this fake anger at Humma has served zero purpose.
What will you give me to ensure your return?
My word as president.
I have no idea what Zooey Deschanel is reacting to here. She's acting like she thinks Zaphod's answer is going to work somehow, when it's obviously not. But mostly it looks like she's been told to pretend that nothing happening in front of her is funny, but not quite selling the straight face. Apparently, sawing off Zaphod's second head is something you can just do with a circular saw. And not only that, the head will be just fine without a body. I mean, we're not even doing the Futurama thing here where the head is in a jar and you can somewhat suspend your disbelief that heads can survive that way.
And here I was thinking I was the only one who considered your boyfriend a narcissistic moron when apparently the whole galaxy does.
What about you?
We know Zaphod isn't going to get shot, so I accept that he does not get shot. However, seeing the sheer number of green lasers coming out of these Vogons in his direction, I do not accept that he does not get shot.
Oh, I'd love to, fella, but wouldn't you know it, my guidance system has been deactivated.
Oh, really, Eddie? You sound like the kind of AI that could help these people reactivate your guidance system. The filmmakers could have just left this complication out and we would have lost nothing. Anyway, I'm not going to complain about every difference the film has with the book, but I am going to say that this change where they have to save Trillian from the Vogons is goddamn tedious.
Okay, we go. Good man, good man.
Tiny steering wheel is comically tiny, but why did the pod even need a steering wheel to begin with? They're in it because it has a navigation system, and the Heart of Gold currently doesn't, so can't they just tell it to follow the Vogon ship? I know it's being deliberately played for laughs, but wipers on a spaceship seriously don't make sense. I can't believe there isn't a high-tech option available for an escape pod attached to a ship that can literally turn you into an armchair. Also, these wipers are so small that they don't cover more than a third of the area of the windshield.
By the way, I checked the guide for the best way to rescue a prisoner from Vogue's fear. It said don't.
Something tells me that if Douglas Adams had written this scene, the guide would have been a lot more fun about it. And yes, I know Douglas Adams is credited on this screenplay, but come on, let's be real.
Okay, I think we... Oh!
This reminds me of that bit from The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob keeps stepping on rake after rake. Yep, it's exactly like a not funny version of that.
I'd make a suggestion, but you wouldn't listen. No one ever does.
If these assholes really are going to ignore Marvin all the time, I don't even know why he's here. I can understand why taking orders from Zaphod would be depressing, but it's curious why Ford and Arthur don't want to use Marvin's superior intellect to figure out some of these tough situations.
I have an idea.
So these things hit you when you have an idea, or say the word idea, or some dumb shit like that. But then why are they consistently attacking them when they start running? If the answer is that they're triggered by all kinds of thinking, then why is their timing so selective at the start of the walk from the ship?
Marvin, can you give me a hand?
This movie honestly allowed Marvin to come along with him on the Vogon planet just so they could do this joke where Arthur pretends Marvin's arm is a weapon of some sort, and that's it. After this, Marvin just goes back to the ship. You'd think that a movie would want more Alan Rickman, not less. Man, I don't mean to keep picking on Zooey Deschanel, but she really looks bored in this movie. I mean, maybe that's her way of keeping everything tongue-in-cheek while all the zaniness goes on around her, but so many of these cutaways to her are downright worthless because they aren't really congruent with anything that's going on.
She's skinny and she's pretty and she's lying.
And that is apparently the full depth of motivation we will be getting out of this character.
Leave this to me. I'm British. I know how to kill.
Wow, up until this point, the movie has been so careful about its British stereotypes. What a weird time to slip up. Easter egg all you like, but I'm going to have all the in-universe questions if you choose to include the original Marvin from the BBC miniseries.
Hi, I've come about a release of a prisoner.
The Vogons are meant to be sticklers for procedure and bureaucracy, and yet this one somehow has no problem with these three skipping the line and holding it up for a considerable amount of time.
These are the orders.
I have to say, it's kind of weird that a lot of this contract appears to be in English. Does the Babelfish have an I-based cousin that translates words? Also, I get that the movie wants to provide conflict between Zaphod and Trillian, but this order is all sorts of bullshit. After all, the Vogons said that the plans for Earth's demolition had been sitting in Alpha Centauri for 50 years. And Zaphod has only been president for a short time. So why would they need his approval when it was approved 50 years ago?
The punishment for a presidential kidnapping is to be fed to the ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll.
The ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll is a throwaway gag that was meant to be mentioned once and never again. Now suddenly your movie has the Vogons using such a beast for capital punishment? Congratulations, you have stomped all over this throwaway gag by doing some sort of unnecessary fan service bullshit.
But this isn't a presidential release of prisoner form. Those are blue.
The form we see her approve doesn't appear to be blue and appears to have Zaphod's signature, even though we only ever see Arthur put pen to paper. Ah, but what if Arthur forged his signature? I hear my fellow nitpickers cry. Well, I poo-poo your theory, since we saw Zaphod's signature a few minutes earlier and it appeared to match the signature we see here, including the unnecessary kiss. Furthermore, we know that Arthur hasn't seen this document and would have no way of knowing to add such a detail. I thus conclude that the butler did it.
Why didn't you tell me?
Well, he threatened me!
Get a backbone, Arthur.
She's right, but holy shit, she sure wasn't all that curious about it when Arthur hemmed and hawed tried to explain it earlier. In fact, considering her character throughout this whole movie, it's hard to see that she cares about anything. So her being mad feels like manufactured conflict.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has this to say on the subject of love. Avoid, if at all possible.
Man, when the movie wants to make up Hitchhiker's quotes, it basically does the bare minimum. This is the second time it's given an answer like this. I mean, you'd think a book with so many contributors would have a few stories about love that are funny and absurd, but no.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Arthur makes no attempt to leave the bathroom while saying sorry about barging in on Trillian. Also, there is no reason for this conversation or scene to be set while Zooey Deschanel is taking a shower, except, well, Hollywood.
I understand totally if you're angry with me. For what it's worth, I know how you must be feeling.
Why? Did you also meet someone at a party who judged you for not pursuing them even though you're under no obligation to, and you owe them nothing, and honestly you wonder why they aren't more focused on the fact that their planet has been destroyed instead of why you aren't having sex with them? Sorry, it just seems weird that that happened to both of you today.
If I had said yes to you and gone to Madagascar, then neither of us would be here now. I just thought that might count for something.
Count for what? Not like you knew the planet was going to be destroyed. This is like Passenger's logic. You see? It was good that I opened your sleep pod early in a total invasion of your privacy, because if I didn't, we wouldn't be able to work together and save the ship that I had no idea was in danger at the time I opened it. QED! These doors aren't moaning. I said that because earlier Marvin said,
all the doors in this spaceship have been programmed to have a cheerful and sunny disposition.
And I bet you thought I was sinning it because a showering Zooey Deschanel is cause for any door to moan. Well, that's on you and your dirty minds, and I suggest you go to your rooms and think long and hard about that.
The Commercial Council of Magrathea thanks you for your esteemed visit.
The green and red outline around this hologram made me wonder if the movie had tried to do something visually funky with this guy. Naturally, I put on my 3D glasses to check it out and immediately realized that this was a terrible idea because I hadn't used them in 15 years and they probably shouldn't smell like beef and be making my eyeballs squeak.
Computer, do something! Sure thing, fella. Handing over manual control. Good luck.
Stealing your escape plan from Star Trek f***ing Insurrection. Yes, that was the sound of the tires screeching on a spaceship in space. No, I don't plan on qualifying this sin any further.
Apparently they've turned into a bowl of petunias and a very surprised-looking whale.
Well, that's just absurd. How would he know what a very surprised whale looks like?
At an improbability factor of 8,767,128 to 1 against.
The missiles turned into a bowl of petunias and a surprised-looking whale. Those odds are better than actually winning the lottery.
A sperm whale had been called into existence several miles above the surface of an alien planet. And since this is not a naturally tenable position for a whale...
Look, as hilarious as this is, I can't in good conscience give this movie a sin off for something that Douglas Adams wrote. What I can do is add a sin for not including even more of the funny shit he wrote instead.
It's a sort of a tingling in my... Well, I suppose I better start finding names for things.
Seriously, the whale section of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy deserves a sin off, but I'm going to add a sin for this whale having too big a vocabulary while also somehow not having a good enough vocabulary.
Curiously, the only thing that went through the mind of the bowl of petunias as it fell was, oh no, not again.
Fine, I'll take 3 sins off because I was being a dick earlier.
Many have speculated that if we knew exactly why the bowl of petunias had thought that...
But who exactly are these many you referred to? It's only Zaphod, Arthur, Ford, Tricia, and Marvin who know about the bowl of petunias, and I'm pretty sure even they don't know what it was thinking as it fell. So how did the many find out enough detail about the plummeting petunias to pontificate about them? Also, it should be pointed out that the subtitles on this movie are terrible. That's one sin. But the other thing is, there's a nuance I believe the movie is missing when it comes to which narrator is speaking. There's a narrator of the movie movie, but there's also the narrator of the guide. And these two narrators are not the same, even though both are voiced by Stephen Fry. But ever since the guide made its appearance, the movie claims it's the guide saying all these narration things, and that's just f***ing wrong, god damn it. How the hell does Zaphod know what he means by Geronimo? Slarty Bartfast rushes past the camera like a horror movie ghost.
What's your name, Earthman?
The arrival of Gandalf the Nighy reminds me that this movie is essentially The Hobbit, an unexpected journey in space.
I could calculate your chances of survival, but you won't like it.
I think the chances of Arthur surviving are actually 100%, and Marvin is directing that second part at us. Also, there's virtually no danger in this situation, and there's no way Marvin could calculate it without some variables, which he doesn't have. Is Marvin actually useless? I never thought about it that way until I watched this movie. Despite being in direct violation of this sign, Shardy Tartfast still has a job. They're in this mini car thing that takes them onto the factory floor of a new planet, and the cart is being pushed by this Bifrost thing that extends for what I'm guessing is miles, but where is this Bifrost being stored when it's not being used as a mine car pusher? We saw the room they were in before they started going fast. It seems to have a very defined track. I guess what I'm saying is this huge bar seems dumb. I don't like it, and I don't know what to say about it anymore.
It is another world, stupid. Or at least it was, until the Vogons destroyed it.
Of course, the world containing the most important question of the galaxy was fittingly destroyed by the man who is currently searching for said question because the universe loves the drama of a 3-act movie. All I'm saying is that it's weird that this cart gets pushed by a big, long bar of some sort. That's all. Also, I'm not a total party pooper, so I'm fine with this being how planets are created. Truly. But if you're advanced enough to be in the planet creating business, why do you just have one man with a paintbrush coloring this mountain and one guy with a pump filling the oceans? Could you not have stretched to a couple pumps and maybe spray paint?
They've nearly finished the oceans.
Hold up there, my friend. Maybe stop that water a little short of what it was at the point Earth exploded. You know, give us a chance to fill it up ourselves over the next century. In this shot, the gun looks super dusty and old, but in the very next shot, it's shiny and new for no conceivable reason other than editing.
It was designed by Deep Thought, but commissioned by a consortium of intergalactic angry housewives.
This point of view gun that you shoot people with so they can see your point of view seems useful enough that it would have been mass produced, and Zaphod wouldn't have had to come all the way here to get one.
Shoot him again.
Once you shoot someone with a point of view gun, why would you ever need to shoot them again? This feels like you're in a video game where you have to keep asking the NPC the same question until they exhaust all their answers.
You actually wanted to know the question because you always wanted to know if there was more to life, and now you're crushed because you find out there really isn't.
Well, that's not entirely true. The question and meaning are still out there. You just don't know what or where it is.
And you're worried you might have blown it with the one guy who really does.
Oh, that movie. They spent a sum total of all time together, and most of that was drunk, on the run, or having him explain how jealous he is. I have no reason to buy that she should have any feelings for him other than mild irritation.
It won't affect me. I'm already a woman.
The
I mean, I don't know this cheese of which you speak.
But if Snooty Tootlooter and his team created Earth, didn't they also create cheese? At the very least, he should have heard of it. It's the pinnacle of human creation.
This amazing meal.
What's amazing about this meal you speak of? When Arthur walked in, all I saw was a bunch of cakes and pastries mixed with some fruit. Is there truly anything that constitutes a meal here? I think this might be a turkey.
As you know, we've spent a lot of time on your planet looking for this ultimate question, only to have it blow up in our faces. Literally.
Okay, here's what I don't understand. Early on, /Farty Bollocks said,
The planet you lived on was commissioned, paid for, and run by mice.
And before that, we got a good look at this document from the Vogons approving the destruction of Earth. Now, if you look at this clause, it specifically mentions that the contractors can only do their thing with the consent of the owner. And if the mice are the owners, why would they approve the destruction of the planet that they need so badly? And yes, I haven't forgotten that Timothée Chalamet also said,
You must come with me because there's been a terrible mix-up with your planet.
But we're never told what that mix-up is. How did the mice accidentally agree to the destruction of Earth? Anyway, I am 42% positive none of that justifies the effort I spent thinking about it or the time it took me to explain it. Carry on. Also, the dolphins figured out that the Earth was going to be demolished and found a way off the planet. So why didn't the mice, the most intelligent life on Earth, send a warning to the galaxy about blowing it up? They had 50 years to get a message out and appeal this bullshit.
Now all we need is the missing piece of the puzzle, which happens to be your brain.
Why do they need Arthur's brain when they could have simply taken Trillian's? I mean, I guess it's possible that since she wasn't technically there as long as Arthur, his brain is best, but nobody says a f***ing thing about why Trillian isn't selected.
What about what's 6 times 7? Or how many Vogons does he take to change a light bulb? Here's one. How many roads must the man walk down?
There doesn't appear to be a reason for Pinky and the Brain to slowball this lobotomy other than to give Arthur just enough time to fluke a Bob Dylan ex machina.
My head is filled with questions, and I can assure you no answer to any one of them has ever brought me one iota of happiness.
Oh, We're suddenly getting all deep and profound, and he said penis.
The only question I've ever wanted an answer to is she the one?
I hate stuff like this because it's so overtly quadrant-based. How are we going to appeal to everyone with this absurd sci-fi comedy? I know! We'll put a romantic subplot in it that doesn't really fit the story or the comedy. And in the effort to appeal to one group, we'll annoy the others.
Undoubtedly, unequivocally, unabashedly.
And don't forget the fourth dwarf of the love apocalypse, skippedly. The most intelligent beings on Earth can't build proper restraints. Whatever. I guess the Vogons have a tracker on the heart of gold, so they can find it anywhere in the universe, and they tracked it to Magrathea. But how did they get here to Earth Mark II and know exactly where everybody went? Furthermore, Arthur and Slartibartfast had to use a series of giant bars that pushed a mine car up and down through the planet to get here. So what did the Vogons use?
Now I've got a headache.
Marvin survives this. This gun has way more power and range than it should have. Also, Deus Ex Machina. Wait, why are the Vogons still depressed? I thought the point of view gun simply made you realize what someone was going through, not make them live in it for eternity.
Unless there's anything you want to change. Something you think your planet could do without.
Yeah, me.
Look, I'm not saying I'd be able to fix Earth given the opportunity, but I'd give it a really good try, and perhaps 10 minutes of thought instead of, quite literally removing myself from the equation.
I know this great restaurant at the end of the universe.
Roll sequel that will probably never be made credits. This movie really isn't helped by the fact that I've seen more enjoyable chemistry in the chicken salad I discovered in the back of the fridge, my old fridge that's been unplugged and neglected in my garage for several years. The conclusion of this movie is brought to you by way of David Attenborough's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
A fate worse than a fate worse than death. That's pretty bad.
Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they asked me to take you up to the bridge.
How did I come to this? I played Richard III. There were 5 curtain calls. I was an actor once. Damn it, now look at me. Look at me!
You little brat. You have never thanked me.
Show me what you got!
It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know!
Another one of these damn kids jumped in front of my car!
Don't forget to bring a towel.
Avada Kedavra.
We hope you will enjoy the 2 thermonuclear missiles we've just sent to converge with your craft.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
Yes! The danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're certainly not showing any signs that they are slowing!
The fish is translating for you.
Don't wait for the translation! Answer me now!
Love and kisses, they fun? You didn't even read it, did you?
I was elected to lead, not to read.